Hello to all of my subscribers, friends, students, family, and those that may even be new to this channel. I was having a moment thinking about the late, great martial arts sensation, Bruce Lee. The individual who was responsible for me ever putting on a karate uniform, a kung fu uniform, or picking up a pair of nunchaku. It was all because of Bruce Lee. And I'm not alone. There's been millions of people whose lives were positively affected by Bruce Lee's presence on this planet. I know that there are people, especially in recent years, that have said that Bruce Lee was not a credible martial artist, that he was not a fighter, that he never fought in the ring and he never fought in a karate tournament. I know those individuals are out there. Those people have a bias. They come with that bias. And their bias is based on the thing that they knew best, sport karate. But most of us know Bruce Lee was not a sports person. He studied the true art, pugilism, martial arts. But anyway, I was sitting here thinking, every year I give a tournament. Used to be 3 times a year. Now it's once a year in the month of July, which is the month of my birth, and it's also the month of Bruce Lee's death. And that's an anniversary event that I have every single July. This coming July 20th, 2018, Bruce Lee would have been 77 years old. As I'm sitting here, I still miss Bruce Lee. I'm still amazed at his knowledge way before and ahead of his time, when he blessed many of us with becoming open-minded to other ways, other avenues, other methods of developing our own respective arts. We all know the story. I think most traditional people never wanted to accept, him touting that there was anything better than what they were doing at the time. And even to this very day, there still are some people who are stubborn. There are some people who are set in their ways that do not want to give Bruce Lee the credit that he truly deserved. But the world knows the magnitude of Bruce Lee. The world knows, by and large, the martial arts world, by and large, the martial arts enthusiasts, I should say, they know what Bruce Lee attributed or contributed to the martial arts. A lot of people don't want to, or a significant amount, I should say, don't want to give him the credit that he truly deserves as being one of the innovators of martial arts in the modern day time, 20th, 21st century. One thing that I do know, during the 70s, Asians were never going to be at the billboard heading. In other words, they were not ever going to grace the title or the starring role in any movie in America, because America never looked at anyone outside of a white face as being the star or cast as the star of any major motion picture or television show. Our history is indicative of that. You can see that there were no black stars significantly during the 70s. If there were, I challenge you to give me a list, or give us a list, of who the black stars were. The television network shows and the movies, major motion pictures, were flooded with white faces, white stars, males and females. There were a very, very minuscule amount of black faces that were significant, if at all, during that time. One prime example of this was the television show, and I made mention of this about a week or so ago, the television show Kung Fu that aired during the 70s with David Carradine as the star, a white actor. He was not a real martial artist. Bruce Lee had that story written for him, and once it was discovered that it was a Chinese man that it was written for, they made the choice of not allowing Bruce Lee to star in that show. Why? America was biased towards Asians, as it was at the time towards blacks. Now, there are people out there, once I started this video, are going to say, well, why did you all of a sudden go into politics? It's not politics, it's the truth. Why is it when we speak the truth, people want to get all up in arms? The truth is the truth. And the scripture says, if you think you're a Christian, if you're watching this right now, what did the scripture say? The truth shall make you free, right? Free where? Free in thinking, opening your mind up, letting you know where things really are. Let's stop wearing these rose-colored glasses and start facing things the way in which they're presented to us, and stop hiding from them. All because we don't want to have that as a talking point or a narrative of the day. The truth is simply the truth. If we're all adults, we should be able to deal with it. So Bruce Lee didn't get the role in Kung Fu because he was Asian. He also was frowned upon by the white community because his wife was white, Linda at the time, and whites just didn't marry Asians as whites didn't really marry blacks. I'm not saying they never did at all, but I'm saying it was taboo for blacks and whites to marry during that period of time, or any other ethnicity marrying a white. It was always frowned upon by white America. Not white America in general. Let me clarify this. White supremacist mentality. You know, those people who feel like they're white privileged individuals. Those are the people that frowned upon that. Okay? Only because this has always been the fabric of America. You know, white folks are supposed to be, you know, number one, and everybody else is supposed to be subordinate. It's always been that way. I didn't mean to twist it a little bit, but it is what it is. Now, getting back to Bruce Lee again. Bruce Lee did a lot of things for the martial arts. I already stated that he was an innovator. I'll also say this, that he was discriminated against because of his ethnicity. He was Chinese. He was discriminated against and even frowned upon for being Chinese marrying a white American. He was also frowned upon the fact that he was teaching non-Asians martial arts over here in America. We know that story, or we should know that story. And if you don't know that story, just in brevity, you just heard me say it. The Chinese did not like Bruce Lee teaching non-Americans martial arts because they thought that we were not worthy of it. But we know he broke the mold. Jesse Glover was his first student who was a black man. And as far as Bruce Lee's credibility is concerned, if you really don't know the history of Bruce Lee, then you can do your own study and find that out. I'm not really here today to try to tell you all of those points where he came from, his very humble beginnings as an Asian star, child star in Hong Kong, how he had approximately 20 movies already before he even came to America as a child, such as The Orphan, that was one of them, and The Rascal was another movie that he starred in China. His father was a Chinese actor, and his mother, Grace Lee. She was not, but his father was, famous in Hong Kong. But anyway, we all know the story that he studied under the Wing Chun master, Ip Man. Many years later, in recent years, Donnie Yen, the actor and martial artist, portrayed Bruce Lee's instructor in the movie called Ip Man, more appropriately. Now, he had many celebrity students. James Coburn, who's passed. He was a multifaceted actor whom I loved dearly. He's gone. He loved Bruce Lee dearly as well. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, basketball star. He was one of Bruce Lee's students. Dean Martin was one of his students. And Dan Inosanto, whose original roots in martial arts were the Filipino martial arts, he taught Bruce Lee how to use the nunchakus. And Bruce Lee took it to another level. Steve Mcqueen, if I didn't already mention him, he was one of Bruce Lee's students as well. He was an actor, a well-known actor. And the list goes on. Even Joe Louis, the karate star, the many times over world champion in kickboxing, Joe Louis, he was one of Bruce Lee's students. And there's plenty of evidence of even him saying that he studied under Bruce Lee and how Bruce Lee improved his own techniques, allowing him to win many championships. Chuck Norris was a student, but he never really admitted it. And if he did, it's only been in recent years, probably because of pressure from other folks asking him, or even people finding old articles where Bruce Lee made the statement in the article that Chuck Norris was one of his students, along with Mike Stone and Joe Louis. But anyway, Bruce Lee has many fans all over the world. Bruce Lee did 4 major movies that were completed: Fist of Fury, Chinese Connection, Return of the Dragon, and Enter the Dragon. A couple of those had 2 titles. But anyway, Enter the Dragon was Bruce Lee's cream de la cream, so to speak. He was in his best shape. He was alert. He had full control over this movie that was both made by Hollywood and the Hong Kong film industry under Raymond Chow. So Bruce Lee controlled the whole movie. He hired a lot of people to play the various roles, such as John Saxon, who was already an American actor, very good actor, I might add, one that I followed for a while. He also appeared in Nightmare on Elm Street as one of the stars' father, who was a police officer. He also recruited Bob Wall, karate instructor and practitioner under Chuck Norris, he says. And Chuck Norris was not in this particular film, but he also gave Jackie Chan, who was a well-known stunt actor and martial artist, he gave him a role in that movie as well, along with Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly was a black martial artist who passed several years ago. He gave him a role, and many other people he gave opportunities and even enhanced their future careers in the martial arts or in acting in general. Bruce Lee did a lot. Bruce Lee broke down the barrier between China and America by his explosiveness. And what I mean by that is his charismatic ways and his talent that got him over the top. Bruce Lee was a phenomenal human being. He was a humanitarian as well. Many people only look at him as someone who just starred in movies in Hollywood and that he just kicked and punched, and some say that he was only an actor and not a martial arts master. But he was. All of you that are listening to me right now in your right mind, you know that Bruce Lee was the real deal. Bruce Lee had notes, manuscripts, and even books on martial arts, on self-defense, on strategies in fighting and self-defense. He had a library of over 2,000 books on virtually every martial arts system and or style that exists. No one who's just an actor does that. Bruce Lee impacted the world. Bruce Lee said, honestly, martial arts to me is expressing myself. And he wanted to do that at the time on film or celluloid, which is film. Right now we have the digital world, but back then it was film. He wanted to express his martial arts on film. Enter the Dragon gave him the opportunity to do this. The vast majority of what you see him do is him. There's no trick cameras. Cameras indeed had to be slowed down because he was that fast. Many people will attest to this. Bruce Lee was physically sound as a martial arts master. During that time, you may have had people who were inspired by him or someone else, or even just within themselves to be great martial artists. But Bruce Lee's body was the epitome of a martial arts master, or someone who was very dedicated to their craft. I challenge you to see very many people today that have that same discipline and training. You have a lot of martial arts instructors, masters, and grandmasters and gurus and whatever they call themselves these days. They lose their muscle tone, they gain inordinate amounts of weight, they in essence become fat, excuse my expression, and even sloppy. This is not indicative of true martial artists. If you started out a certain way, a certain type of methodology and training, and you were fit and toned and in good health, then for the most part, you should be that same way throughout your whole career in martial arts. You don't start out weighing 180 and then you're weighing 380 20 years later. Notwithstanding, I know that some people may have thyroid issues. Some people may have some other pre-existing conditions. But that should always be the exception, not the rule. There are many people that are in martial arts that I have come across throughout my career who smoke marijuana, who engage in other drugs, who hang out in nightclubs, they get drunk, they get high. That's not the school I came through. Not at all. If you need all of these stimuli to make you feel good about yourself, then you need to be asking yourself the question, what's really wrong with me that I need these outside sources to make me feel amped up, to make me feel confident, to calm me down even? I thought nature was enough. I thought the fact that we had a creator was enough. Are you despising the very God that created all of us and saying, oh, he didn't do his job well when he created me, so now I need all of these other external things to do what God didn't do for me? The failure is not in the creator, the failure is in us, the human being. So if you're having it hard, if you feel like you have to go get high before you enter into a karate tournament, or you feel like you have to have this stimulus, if you will, in the way of toking on a joint, if you will, before a competition, something's wrong with you. You really don't know the art that well, do you? If you really did, you would know that you're on a journey, and it's a journey of self-discovery. Self-discovery is not in drugs on any level. If you're a karate man, karate woman, or martial artist of any particular discipline, and every time you get a break at a martial arts tournament, you step outside and you smoke a cigarette, something's wrong. I'm not beating up on you. I'm telling you where you should be. I have been in the martial arts for 46 plus years. I have never smoked, I have never drank, and I have never done drugs. And to this present day as I'm speaking to you, I don't even take pain pills, and I have osteoarthritis. I don't. So what's wrong with you? If you have a debilitating condition and your level of faith is not to a certain point, it's understandable. But if you have a reasonably good status as it relates to health, you have no excuse. Please forgive me. I know I jumped around a little bit. I started out talking about how I was reminiscing about the late great Bruce Lee, and I began to talk about martial arts masters and practitioners in general. And really, I'm just trying to encourage you, to let you know that you can be great in your own respective art if you put the work in. Greatness is not something that just falls on you. Some of us are gifted. We're born with certain abilities, natural abilities, but we have to work on those abilities as well. So, as it relates to Bruce Lee and his contributions again to the martial arts, most people in the martial arts who really know anything know that Bruce Lee is one of those individuals that are at the top of the list as far as, for lack of a better word, pioneers. I can name a list of them. I can list Kanishi, Jigoro Kano, Ueshiba, Robert Trias, even my own great grandmaster Quan Wan An, Motobi, Yamaguchi. I can go through a whole Tung Hai Chan, Bagua. I can list a whole lot of people, but Bruce Lee in modern day times was the person who spoke out through expressing himself on film, and when he spoke out, the whole world listened. And to this very day, I don't think, in my honest viewpoint, I don't think there will ever be anyone again in this present day that is as devoted, as dedicated, as proficient, as innovative as he was during this time period, the time period that he came up in, of course. But he set the stage from where most of us began to understand and to grow. That was Bruce Lee. And he is indeed and will always be a legend in the martial arts. So, just me reminiscing, just me thinking that if it were not for him, I would have never started martial arts. Never ever. He was the catalyst. He was the guy that I saw that literally jumped off the screen in my mind when I saw the commercials advertising his movies, and I just had to go see what this was all about. And I began my martial arts career over 46 years ago. And these guys that's saying that he was just an actor, this is something I wanted to say before I close this video. I'm glad it came back to me. These guys, they were alive during the time that Bruce Lee was here. Why didn't they approach him then? Why didn't they say something to him then? Why do they wait over 40 years later to say that he was just an actor, or that anyone in MMA today could have beat Bruce Lee, or he wouldn't fare that well in MMA, mixed martial arts? My friends, let me remind you, mixed martial arts existed way before the Gracies, way before the UFC, way before the Pride fights. MMA has always existed, mixed martial artists. And we're not talking about an individual representing one system or style versus another individual representing one system or style. We're talking about one individual who has indeed studied more than one or two systems and styles. I've done that. Ron Van Cleef had done that. Professor Moses Powell, rest in peace, had done that. Many people have done that. That's mixed martial arts. When you put all of those things together in your program, where you have the best of striking, you have the best of kicking, you have the best of ground fighting, that's mixed martial arts for the individual. Not one guy who's a boxer versus a Muay Thai guy, or one guy who's a judo expert versus a guy that's a kung fu guy. That's not real mixed martial arts. Real mixed martial arts is when you, the individual, is well versed in the major disciplines. I've heard people say that Aikido was no good in the street fight. Did they ever study Aikido? Or are they only looking with their two eyes? Do they have a bias because they only studied some jiu-jitsu and taekwondo? Joe Rogan, he was an example. Don't tell me that Aikido doesn't work in the street. It does. Don't tell me that judo doesn't work in the street. It does. Don't tell me taekwondo and any form of kung fu doesn't work in the street. They do. Boxing works in the street. But let me tell you, it's not the art. It's the person that's studying the art, and the time, devotion, and dedication they put into that specific art. And it is the individual that perfects those skills that that determines the outcome in the street. It's not the art, it's the person. Always understand that, because before there was ever any art, there was the man who created it. And his mind was open. This is Brother Teacher. I'm out.